I'm Frankie Pinocchio Spin, and this is my North Den. I've been here a long, long time, like 77, 78 years.
How many years?
77, 78 years.
77? He would pick up the lemons and the oranges, and scoop them up like this, like 6 at a time, put them in the bags.
You just keep putting stuff in a bag till you had no more. During the war, I used to walk by here, and help was hard to get. They were in the service or they were doing war work. I was a child, 12 years old. Said, here, son, come here, you're working here, $1 a day. There's 12 in a dozen, 16 ounces in a pound, and I went to work for $1 a day. You're gonna run over the sidewalk. Joey-O!
My name's Joey Onesimo. I grew up on the street, and I come from the North End, and I loved it. It was a beautiful section. It was a lovely neighborhood. Everybody got along, everybody was fine. All these doors were open. You could go in the doorways and use bathrooms if you had to, because all the bathrooms were in the hallway. So it was just a nice neighborhood. Just nice place to grow up. All right, this here was the street I grew up on when I was a kid. I was born and brought up on the street. When I was born till 15, 16, then I moved out. There was a ton of kids around here, I had plenty of friends. There was a lot of things to do when you was a kid. Besides, like today, go to concerts and all this other stuff, we played on the street. We made our own toys. We did our own things, and we all got along good. My father owned these 2 buildings, 21 and 23 Margaret Street, when I was a kid. And I was born in that building there, 1941. And that's where I was raised and grown up until I was 17, 18 years old. And then I moved out. I lived with my brother for a while before I got married. How you doing? I got a guy doing an interview on me where I grew up.
Yeah, there you go. Salvatore Onesimo, right there.
S.O. is Salvatore Onesimo, my grandfather. In 1905, these were wooden buildings. And then in the 1900s, they started bricking them. Italian people coming from Italy were doing brickwork, which, they were doing like what do you call it, brickwork. And they started bricking these houses one at a time. So naturally, my father bricked these 2 houses. When I was a kid, this was a little convenience store. And on the corner was Pasquale. He used to make pizza. They made pizza and bread. And the guy that owned this used to sell the pizza on Cross Street. They used to call him Gobble hot pizza. His name was Pasquale. Well, they took the windows out and they bricked it all up. They made an apartment. But when I was a kid, it was a pizza shop. You remember that? This Cleveland place here, when I was a kid, there was a playground in the middle. We used to call it Jungle Gyms. And that's where we used to play when we were kids, 8, 9, 10 years old.
I was raised in the last house in this street, Noyes Place. By the way, we had no sidewalk then. I don't believe there was a sidewalk. This building here, we lived on the top floor, and on the roof we had a pigeon coop. You know what I'm talking about, a pigeon coop? We lived on the top floor. I don't even know the number. I was a child. I don't remember playing on the street, but I was a child. I remember Crab Man sold hot crabs during the day, and he lived in this building here. And he'd come in at night with the unsold crabs. He used to give them to the kids. We used to eat the unsold crabs. You had the crabs on a push cart. My mother had 10 children. And you rented apartments. You had to take whatever was available for the amount of children you had.
We used to stay out here on the sidewalk and, because we had the shade over here, and sit out here till 10, 11 o'clock at night. We didn't have air conditioners. We didn't have fans. We just opened the windows and hopefully got a little breeze. Well, I used to do a lot of errands. They used to send a basket down with a note and the money, and they would say, go to Angelo's on the corner there, a little variety store, and get what they wanted. Came back, put it back in the basket, and the woman would say, Giuseppe, take 5 cents. Take 5 cents and then send the rest up. Candy was a penny. Pizza was a nickel. I mean, stuff was all cheap them days.
A variety store, John and Mary's variety. For 2 cents you buy a sherbet with 2 pieces of cake, cookies, and you make an ice cream sandwich. 2 cents.
That white top building there, the fella, how you doing? That was a fruit store when I was a kid. 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. Next door was a pool room. Next one over, they had a little club. Most of these cellars here, the old Italian guys used to make wine. And if they didn't make wine, they used to have coal bins and wooden bins for the furnace and stuff before they had electric and gas and oil. And afterward, they got rid of all that stuff. Kids started renting the cellars as clubs, making like a little, convenient clubs or something. The reason for the club was it was a place to hang out, a place to go. They played cards, they had drinks. They just, where else were they gonna go? They didn't have nothing else to do. You know what I mean? If you didn't go at night down the field to watch the game, they had baseball or football or whatever they played. But other than that, they had the club, especially on a Sunday. And on a Sunday, where are you gonna go? That was Freddie the tailor shop. They cleaned your clothes or press your clothes and stitch your clothes and shorten your clothes or whatever you had to do with your clothes. Plenty of action here, plenty of action. When I was a kid, this street, Sailor Street, was all stores. All stores was a busy street. There was plenty of people. There was a meat store, a grocery store, a fish store, a pizza shop, a bread shop. Both sides of the streets were all stores going down.
This was a barn owned by the Andolino family. They had a horse enter the Kentucky Derby. St. Mary's School, Catholic school, first A grade.
This is a North Bennett Industrial Street School. They had the piano shop, jewelry shop, and a woodworking shop if you wanted to learn them trades. It's still operating, but not here. They moved it to North Street, the old police station. They took half the building and made it the Elliott School. This building here with the flag up, when I was a kid, was the first national chain store. That was here when I was a kid. That was the only chain grocery store that we had that was, discount, big. Every first floor was a store, and they all did business. You wonder how they made it in them days.
This is the famous Pizzeria Regina. There'd always be lines here. We went the side door, we get pizza, we didn't have to wait in line. We knew all the waitresses, the owner, and everybody. We used to buy 10-cent beers here. We parked 6 cars over there, 3, 2, and 1. Right here where the white truck is.
This is the corner of Prince and Salem. This is where I used to walk to go to work on a Friday and Saturday. Well, my brother put me to work 7, 8 years old. He says he had to go to work. We never heard of worker papers. Who the hell heard of worker papers? I never got in trouble. I never went to a baseball game, never went to a football game. You know what I'm saying? I worked all my life.
This was a health unit. The women used to come here 1 day a week, weigh their babies up. They have a pediatrician in there, check the babies out. Run by the George Robert White Fund. They have one in every neighborhood in the city. It's called Jerusalem Place because there was a synagogue at the end of the street here. That used to be the synagogue. I never knew it operated. It was an empty building when I knew it.
40s, 50s, when I was a kid, that was a fire station. We had one small fire truck. A lot of these young kids wouldn't know this was a fire station unless you're an old timer and you lived here in the 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Can't back that thing into that spot.
No, they had a small one. Smaller than that.
This building here, it was an empty lot, and they built a 1-story building here, used a warehouse for fruit and produce by Joe Tecci, who had a restaurant later on and became a little bit famous, you know? I mean, you might have heard of Tecci's restaurant. The buildings there were knocked down for the central artery. And then they knocked the central artery down. And that's what's left.
There were 2 rows of buildings here before they put the central artery in. Then they took them all down and put the central artery in. Then they took the central artery down and put this greenway in. I mean, they made it beautiful and modified everything, but when I was a kid, these were all buildings. Years ago, in the 40s and 50s, push carts would line up on Indigo Street. Horse and wagons would line up on Clinton Street. 8, 9 o'clock, they draw tags. They used to let them run in. They all got in, horse and wagons first. Once all the horse and wagons were in, then they whistled for the push carts to come in. So everybody ran in with push carts and got a spot. But then over the years, the late 50s, they all wind up stationary. They all wind up, whatever was there, they owned it. That was it, you know what I mean? They stopped doing that running stuff. And that's how we accumulate the spots.
Ho comprato 5 casse solo.
You see Otto stand behind me? I used to own 15, 16 feet on the left of him, and I worked there for 60, 70 years, selling produce all my life. I retired in 2015.
They played softball here. This was home plate with the benches here. It hit it over Cross Street to be a home run.
When they made the movie Town from Charlestown, the guys that robbed the banks and everything, they used this cleaning shop as they made it a bank. And this was the bank they're supposed to rob. But years ago, when I was a kid, the bank was over here across the street on the corner. This coffee shop has been over there 100 years. The guy that owned it, my cousin started work for him when he was 13, 14 years old. And the guy, when he died, he left him the shop. They sell the same stuff for over 100 years. This here is James Ninny Lamoni. This guy here, his pictures here, he used to sit on the corner here all the time. He was a very influenced guy. Everybody liked him. This is Bovis. They've been there over 100 years. They've been baking for 100 years over there. The whole family, it's down to the nephews now. It's like the third generation. And next door is Buzziati, the same thing. They've been there over 100 years. That was my favorite pizza shop.
You need a pizza, you're gonna come to the North End.
When I was a kid, the 40s, 50s, there used to be a nickel a slice.
Yeah, nickel and a dime. Pizza's delicious. My grandmother lived in the second building. My aunt lived up there, top flight. My cousin got boxing gloves for Christmas, right? We were boxing in our bedroom. If one of them got knocked out, we went through the window. We'd have fallen here, Joe.
Good pizza.
The Angelos, they were a bookmaking office. This was their office. When they got raided from here. Where the white car is there, the FBI had a camera, and they used to change the car every now and then so nobody would notice their camera. And the headlamp was a camera. And they photographed everything the Angelos were doing. And who went in and who went out. Know what I mean? On Friday and Saturday, you couldn't walk on the street, nothing but people. Fruit and vegetables and butcher shops. I was here once saying, Joe, seriously, I was here once saying Anthony's, right? All wise guys over here came with everything for nothing, food, booze, everything. And all wise guys from New York up against the wall here because they couldn't sit, there was no seats to sit down, everything for nothing. St. Anthony's Feast. Bellinopoli restaurant. Turned out to be Joe Tecci. He bought it, changed it to Tecci's. And the rest is history.
Johnny Pascucci. We grew up together.
Yes, what are you doing here?
Well, he's still a little into spinning mold.
Oh, the only thing I can tell you is that he and his entire family are the hardest working people that ever came out of the North End. This is what you call a working man. A working man.
Thank you, Johnny. I
Always
love you.
good to see you.
The same here. I love you, Johnny.
Be good, watch yourself.
Be good.
5 and 10 cent store. Whatever was in there would cost 5 or 10 cents. This is back in the 40s. You buy all your Christmas trees and all the stuff in the tree you bought here, 5 and 10 cent store.
Come on, let's go in. Welcome.
We might be in here.
Yeah.
Boston's not that. This picture alone has got to be 50 years old, at least.
Easily. We get guys coming in all the time and seeing themselves.
This is the proof I was telling you that all the houses in the North End were shingles before they bricked them. In the 1890s, 1900s, they started bricking all the shingle houses that were wood, and they all become brick houses.
This picture, Paul Revere's house was privately owned. It wasn't an historic place. It was owned by an Italian bank in around 1910. That's the picture right there. That's Paul Revere's house. That black building, the black front, that was our club.
Every
every block. Yeah.
Every block had a club. I tell you, the rents were cheap them days. The rents were
Oh
15,
yeah, 20 bucks a month.
They collect $1 a week for
Dues.
dues, and they pay the rent.
Yeah, sold booze for
And
a quarter a shot.
if some had a membership, they could sell booze.
Coffee Royal, yeah. Lenny Honorado, this kid, he died in Korea. They had a bandstand here at a holiday. They had a bandstand here. Veterans Day or something like that, they dedicated the square to him.
Well, it's got more people now than it did when I was a kid.
Before, it was strictly North Enders.
It was much quieter. It was just the neighborhood of the North End. A lot of changes, I think it's all for the good. Look at all the people here. Oh, they come from all over.
Hey, these guys are dinosaurs.
That's the tell them, Richard.
They're dinosaurs. This is my good friend Spinny Mo. I love him dearly. He's one of the original North End guys. He's an original.